Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is our weekly webinar. It's our weekly update on the platform trial. We can go to the next slide. So for those of you who are following us, you know that we provide these weekly updates to share updates about the study. I'll also briefly recap some of the main sort of foundational elements of the study as well today. Next slide. So as you know, the platform trial is really a shared protocol and infrastructure that we're using to test multiple drugs. And we call each drug a regimen. Now, each regimen is sort of similar to the other ones in terms of the overall study design. So each drug is tested in a regimen, and it's tested by doing a placebo-controlled randomized trial that lasts 24 weeks, which is about 6 months, followed by an active treatment extension, which we used to call open label extension. And so essentially, every participant who comes in, regardless of the regimen that they are assigned to, that person will be receiving either active or placebo for 6 months, and then active treatment for several months. The ratio of active to placebo is 3:1, as the graph shows, meaning that there's more people that go on active compared to placebo. And the reason for that is because we have a shared infrastructure. And so we can share placebo data across regimens. And that's why we're able to minimize the number of people on placebo, which we couldn't do if this was a set of a series of standalone trials. But because we're using the same protocol and the same infrastructure, we can share placebo data. Now, at this time, we are looking forward to the results from regimen E, testing Trialos from Silos Therapeutics. We expect that over the next few months. We are still actively enrolling for regimens F and G. Regimen F is testing a drug made by Calico in partnership with AbbVie, and regimen G is testing a drug made by Denali. So we still have lots of spots available for regimens F and G. And so if you're interested in participating in the trial right now, those are the regimens that are open for enrollment. Next slide. So people have asked us, how do you select the drugs that we test in the platform trial? And so we just wanted to share that the drugs are selected by a group of scientists and clinicians that form the therapy evaluation committee. And so this committee reviews applications from companies that want to join the trial. And so they make recommendations for selection based on the scientific rationale, essentially preclinical data or data from the lab that support the scientific rationale for testing these products in ALS, as well as availability of previous human experience in ALS or other diseases. So we want to make sure that the drugs that we put into the study have a clear dose rationale, safety profile that's somewhat known, and we want to know that we can engage the target of the product. Now, obviously, more data on these topics will be collected as part of the trial itself, but we want to have a base to make sure that we can include this study in this trial, which is a large trial. Next slide. So the treatments are selected and put into the platform trial as regimens to be tested. And then, as I said, we use a similar protocol, and we use the same endpoints or similar endpoints, the same approach for all regimens. So for each regimen, we collect data, including a primary endpoint, which is something that's important for moving drugs forward, even to the point of registration. And that's actually because we test as primary endpoint the change in disease severity measured as both function and mortality. And this is sort of the type of approach that's preferred by regulatory agencies. So groups like the FDA want us to study function while accounting for mortality. And so that's what we're testing in this trial. We also test a number of other aspects of the disease, because we know that ALS affects the body in different parts, in different ways. And so we want to capture as much information as possible to really be able to tell and evaluate the full impact of the drug on someone with ALS. And so in addition to function and survival, we measure respiratory function, we measure muscle strength using sort of commonly accepted techniques. We look at also survival and a number of safety endpoints. We want to make sure that the drug is safe for people living with ALS. We also have a number of additional endpoints, which we call more exploratory, and some of them are more established, like genetic markers or neurofilament markers. Others are in development, like some digital tools. That means that basically we can monitor people in the home environment by using smartphone apps. So there's a number of additional endpoints or outcomes that we are measuring, which are important not only to be able to tell if the drug works or not, but also to learn more about how these outcomes behave for ALS research. And that in turn gives us more information about ALS itself. So it's important for us as part of this large scale initiative to test drugs, but also to learn more about ALS and share our learnings with the community. Next slide. So far, again, as I said earlier, we are actively enrolling participants in regimens F and G, and I'm really happy to report that enrollment is going quite well. That said, we still have lots of spots, so don't hesitate to reach out to sites close to you. We have consented, that's the first step for entering the trial, over 400 individuals, and then there is a flow. Whenever somebody enrolls in the trial, that person will be assigned to either regimen F or regimen G, and so then they have to do some screening procedures for that regimen, and then finally they're randomized within the regimen, which means that they're receiving study drug, whether active or placebo. And so right now we have almost 300 people randomized within F or G. So again, great progress, but certainly we still have spots available. Next slide. So we are enrolling at a total of 63 sites. We are still adding the last few sites, and we're very excited to be able to offer this at a large number of centers. And again, we're going to add a few more. But if you're interested in participating, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, these sites are available and there are spots right now. So we really want to finish enrollment soon so that we can then measure the effects of the drugs. Next slide. If you want to get contact information from the site near you, you can always go to our website, and I see that Catherine has posted information in the chat as well. So you can either use the link in the chat if you're following us live, or you can go on our website using the QR code or the link, and that will bring you to contact information at each site. Next slide. If you want to learn more about the specifics of each drug, you can also refer to our recorded materials and brochures. We have a number of brochures that are available about the science that supports each drug, as well as some of the procedures, such as some biomarker assessments or lumbar puncture assessments that are done as part of these regimens, and why we are doing all of this. So feel free to browse these resources, and I'm happy to say that we are also going to bring back the scientists that develop these drugs. They've been on our webinars before. Some of these webinars have been our most popular ever. We're literally thousands of people watching the recording. So don't miss those, but also don't miss the upcoming webinars when actually they're going to come back. And so you can ask them questions live. Next slide. And as always, please feel free to contact our patient navigator. We also have the ALS link, which is a newsletter. We are continuing to have these webinars, so you can always come back and ask questions live. And then we are sort of, planning a few guest speakers. And so November 9th, Dr. Babu, a colleague of mine at Mass General, will be here to talk about EAPs in particular. So, this webinar is generally about the platform trial, but there's also a lot of discussion in the community about expanded access. And that's why moving forward, we're going to have one monthly webinar fully dedicated to expanded access, so that we can actually, bring you all those kind of news, and you can ask questions live as well. So that's coming up. And then, as I said earlier, very excited to have our colleagues from Denali. They are sponsoring Regimen G. Come on and join us again on November 16th. We have another webinar, a couple of other webinars that we have in our list of recorded webinars. But if you want to ask them questions live, please don't miss the November 16th webinar. And for today, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And so this is great. And I see that Catherine is also posting lots of great information. So a question, how to choose a site and can you switch sites? Well, the sites, again, they are available at 63 locations. And so I would encourage you to try to select the site that's closest to you. I will say that it's possible to also enroll at sites that are more far away. So that's definitely, as long as you can go there for study visits, that's totally fine. So it doesn't have to be sort of geographically nearby. Obviously, it's more convenient if it's closer. There's a number of visits that are done remotely. So we really took great care in terms of minimizing the number of in-clinic visits. And during those visits, there's either some biomarker assessments that cannot be done remotely or some safety assessments that cannot be done remotely, but we definitely have some flexibility with remote visits as well. Unfortunately, during the randomized control period of the study, we cannot allow people to switch sites. So, and that's actually due to a number of operational concerns, and especially because this is a placebo-controlled trial, and sort of the drug assignment to active or placebo and the restocking and shipping is all blinded. It actually introduces a lot of difficulties and risks actually to the study if we allow people to switch sites. So if at all possible, I would recommend again that you select a site near you. If not, again, for at least the randomized control period of the study, there's some flexibility with remote visits. So in terms of results, so when we close out a regimen, so the question is, what do we do with the results? Do we present them to the FDA? How long does it take? And specifically, the regimen that we're waiting for is regimen E, as discussed earlier. So yes, we're very excited that we have a very good relationship with the FDA. So we've been meeting with them on a regular basis for multiple regimens. And so absolutely, if the drug regimen E or other regimens, if the drugs are positive, absolutely the idea is to then present the results. It takes a few months because the volume of data is such, and the number of biomarkers is such that it really takes some time for processing. So I do want to say that, from timeline expectation perspective, it takes some time to go through all of this. So the one question about sort of the regimens F and G. So are we going to finish enrollment for one versus the other? Well, they started sort of around the same time. F started slightly before G. But again, it was just a slight delay. So really, they're gonna finish kind of close together. They may be offset by a few weeks. So yes, you're right. It's they will be offset a little bit, but not really, not much of a delay. And once both are up and running, so the assignment is equal. So they're gonna sort of proceed in parallel, although one started slightly earlier than the other one. So question about pridopidine. And as you know, pridopidine was tested as part of regimen D, which concluded. The open label extension is still ongoing, but the randomized control study finished. And we do have webinars to review the results. And so there was some interesting effects, both in terms of bulbar function in all participants, but also some additional interesting findings in subgroups. For example, people who are early in their disease course. So again, we still need to learn more about this drug. Certainly, the fact that it was tested rapidly in the platform trial allowed the company to now move forward faster with additional studies. So that's the idea, to get signals rapidly in the platform trial and then help the companies kind of launch their own next study. So hopefully there will be another study soon. In terms of the expanded access, so in parallel, because again, obviously it's going to take some time for the next trial to be up and running, we are offering predopidine as an expanded access. I will say that there was a smaller expanded access that was already open and right now is not enrolling additional participants. And then more recently, because we got a grant from the NIH, we're able to open more spots. We are working hard on the startup of that. It's supposed to be become available over the next few months at up to 45 sites. So it's going to be a lot of sites. So really, we're trying to make this drug available really at many, many sites. So we're gonna, that's why, actually, thank you for asking about EAPs. That's why we want to do a monthly webinar moving forward, fully dedicated to EAPs, because we understand that the community has a lot of questions for good reasons, right? There were some announcements from the NIH that, you know, the grants were awarded. And so I'm sure everyone is asking, okay, now what? When can we enroll? So we are gonna provide updates to you on a monthly basis, with the first one being, I believe, November 9th with Dr. 9th, did we say? November 9th, yes, with Dr. Babu. And so again, on one of the next webinars, 2 webinars from now, that my colleague will provide information so that we continue to update the community in terms of which sites, etc. It takes about 6 months for any study to be up and running, a study of this size, but obviously it's going to be kind of on a rolling basis. Some sites will become available sooner rather than others. Yeah. So question about FNG, when do we anticipate that they will be fully enrolled? So we still have some time to go because we're talking of between the 2 studies about, 500 people, give or take. So we certainly have made lots of great progress, but definitely we're continuing to enroll through 2023. I expect that, we're going to be fully enrolled at some point in early 2024, but sometimes, things happen, holidays, things like that, slow things down. Hopefully not, because we really want to enroll as soon as possible so that we have the results as soon as possible. So again, I would say if you're interested, please, contact the site. It would really be great to finish enrollment soon. I think early 2024. So question about, does the HEALEY trial works with ALS TDI? Well, we don't work directly on this study, but I had to say we definitely have a great partnership and collaboration on the scientific side with different people at ALS TDI. And in fact, I'll just put in a shameless plug for the ALS 1 symposium, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. That's sponsored by ALS 1, fantastic foundation organization supporting lots of projects in ALS and great advocacy group. And that study is also done in partnership with us, with Fernando Vieira from ALS TDI. And so it's really just another example of ways we interact with ALS TDI. So don't miss the ALS 1 symposium. Actually, Catherine, if you can post the registration information if you haven't done that yet. It's a fantastic symposium, open to the public. And I had to say there's going to be it's all interesting. Every single day is interesting, and in particular, there's lots of great speakers on genetics. So I think it's really really fantastic webinar, available to all, free of charge. You just have to register, I think, and it's going to be virtual. So again, everyone can join. So great question about unblinding participants as regimens close out. Yes, we are going to do that. In fact, we have a plan to unblind previous participants in regimens A and B, now that A and B are fully concluded, and then we're going to continue that on a rolling basis. So there's, we'll be in communication with the sites over the next couple of weeks to implement the plan. So thank you for kind notes in the chat, and then specific questions. When are we going to have the results for SILUS? So we are on, we're working hard on those. We haven't really started. We just, we're working on kind of locking the database and then analyzing the results. It takes a few weeks after we lock the database to analyze the results. So I believe by the end of the year, January at the latest, but I think, we are on track for, working on this over the next few weeks. So a question about how to report kind of symptoms. So I guess the question is, if somebody is in a trial and then has some sort of an itch or some other symptoms. How do we know that it's just regular life or connected to ALS as opposed to the drug? Should someone report any minor symptom or not? So that's a great question. So every trial deals with this a little bit differently. I can tell you for this particular program, our instruction is to collect everything. So any symptom will be collected, whether it's big or small, whether we know that that's just a regular ALS symptom or a regular thing that happens in life versus the drug. So talk to your study team. We err on the side of really reporting more rather than less. And then because we have the placebo control, we can tell, at the end, we will be able to compare, was this event just something that happened in the background in everyone, regardless whether somebody was on active or placebo, or was that specific to the drug? And so, again, different protocols may be different on this, but for our protocol, we collect everything, every single symptom. So question, can somebody be on more than one EAP? So couple of things. So you cannot be on more than one expanded access protocol at the same time. However, if you're interested in more than one expanded access protocol, you can definitely share your interest. And then as soon as a spot is available, you can just take the first one that's available. And I see that somebody is putting a shameless plug for the wonderful team at Georgetown under Dr. Nayar, and I love that. Thank you for putting a plug for our sites. We love working with Dr. Nayar and the Georgetown's team, so thank you for that. We have wonderful sites, lots of great teams around the country. In fact, we had a tour around the country, right? On this webinar, at some point, we had a set of several weeks devoted to getting to know our sites. I'm sure we'll bring back a few more sites. We are also especially love to bring sites that are new to the platform trial so that everyone can get to know them. But certainly, yeah, definitely agree. We have a great team at Georgetown. Great. I think that was the last comment or question. So I think with that, thank you so much for your participation, and we'll see you back next week. Thank you.